Okay, this is Travis Wayne Goodsell with Constitutional Government, Part 2. Got to remember to look at the camera, not at the projection on the screen. So I'll try to remember to keep looking at the camera. I'm going to go over the Bill of Rights, and then if I get through the Bill of Rights, I'll go to the articles and the sections within the articles. But I'm expecting that the Bill of Rights should cover the majority of what needs to be covered. If you're not familiar with my concept, I believe in a constitutional republic, which means that people are equal, that it's not based on a majority vote, that everybody is to be treated equal, and therefore we do not need representatives. We just need a governing constitution so that we can govern ourselves. But I'm going to go over the Bill of Rights, and the first one we'll go over is the First Amendment. And because there's several parts in the First Amendment, I'll go over the first one, which was freedom of speech. Let's see. It's actually religion is first, and then speech is after that. So here's the Bill of Rights. I hope everybody has their own copy. You know, this is your nation. You should know the rights that you have, and you should know when your rights are being violated. And so, yeah, we'll be getting to the Second Amendment and the discussion of gun control, but that'll be a little while longer. Today is freedom of religion. Yippee-ki-yay. All right, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free expression thereof. And then it goes on to others, so then we can logically say that, for example, with speech, we need to include the beginning sentence, and thus it becomes, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. And as I went over in the previous one, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and all states, all government, all branches of government must conform to the United States Constitution. We cannot be a United States if we are divided and segregated. And so we can't have states going rogue, coming up with their own laws, and citizens moving in to those particular states, rogue states, and not knowing the new laws for that particular state, and thus becoming victims to abusive government control in violation of their constitutional rights. And this involves religion. I've brought up Utah before because Utah is a rebellious state in the Union. They have a dominant religion, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, controlling their state government. The majority of the citizens of Utah are Mormon, and they vote for Mormons in the political offices, and Mormon ideology runs the government of Utah. They're going to have a ballot initiative for this midterm election regarding whether Utah is to be a state that allows medical marijuana. The church has already come out and told the members of the church, no, vote no. And so Utah is expected to vote no for medical marijuana. And so all of the people that have seizures, for example, will not be able to be treated in Utah and prolong their life and be free from the torture of seizures. And so this is why it's important that states must follow a single constitution. And I don't know if it's ironic or just hypocritical that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, in their own canon of Scripture, proclaims the United States Constitution not just constitutional law in general, because their Book of Mormon has the laws of Mosiah, which are a direct pattern to the United States Constitution. But they believe in a constitution, and they believe that the United States Constitution was directly influenced and inspired by God himself, the Mormon God. And so it's kind of weird that that church is in rebellion against the United States and against the principles and rights and freedoms that are brought up in what they believe is divine inspiration from God in the Constitution. And I've discussed that in other things, but we're just talking government here, the Constitution. Okay, so establishment of a religion. I mentioned in the previous video that the ancient governments were a theocratic government, which means that the king or ruler of the people were both the government leader as an autocrat and also a religious leader. And church and state were one and the same. And that's what we have in Utah, is even though they're separated, the leaders of the church are not government leaders like Brigham Young was, the branch off leader of the now Mormon church. But they have direct influence on the Mormon members of the Utah government and meet with them annually, if not monthly, to discuss how the government should conform to the church's wishes. And okay, so prohibiting the free exercise thereof. I meant to look up the name of the author of Dialogues Concerning Natural Religion. I'm mixing the author with Utopia, but Dialogues Concerning Natural Religion came out just before the Bill of Rights, and it's highly likely that the Bill of Rights were directly influenced from Dialogues Concerning Natural Religion. The discussion in the Dialogues Concerning Natural Religion brought up that you cannot have a single religion dominating the government, because what about the other religions? These other religions therefore get suppressed and oppressed and discriminated and violated of their rights. And so how do you choose a religion over other religions as the state religion? And in Utah they did it through democracy. The majority of the members of the state of Utah are Mormon, and therefore the state religion of Utah is Mormon. And so the other religions are suppressed and oppressed and discriminated against, and petitioning is denied because of the dominant religion controlling the government, and the government makes sure that the laws are specifically made to prevent people from petitioning a redress of grievances. And that's part of Amendment 1, and that's the last part, so that'll be a future video. And so in Dialogues Concerning Natural Religion, it was determined in the panel discussion in the book of the made-up characters that a government must give equal opportunity for all religions in order to have a successful government. We have found in this nation that even though we were intended to be a melting pot where all religions, all nationalities, all people from different cultures, different groups were to be welcomed and treated equally, we have found that religion does not like to comply. Religion seeks dominance. And when a religion obtains dominance, they then declare war against other religious organizations and other religious states in the name of their God. And that becomes an unfortunate thing. We all know the Jews, for example, have been a minority in the world and have been forced from country to country throughout Europe, and America was intended to be a place of refuge for not just Jews but other groups who have been persecuted in their native countries. This is in part with freedom of speech, because your religious beliefs should be able to be spoken freely and not be persecuted. Unfortunately, evangelicals in the early 1900s pursued lawsuits that got all the way up to the Supreme Court to force the school system to teach creationism. And the Supreme Court denied it, indicating that a science-based curriculum must be utilized over a religious-based curriculum. And then evangelicals went on a rampage, creating all sorts of idle laws and accusations, and they emerged as televangelists and into the mega churches of today. So, but the concept of free speech in regards to religious free speech, do Muslims, for example, have the right to speak of jihad, the holy war? And the answer is no. This discussion was brought up in the New Testament Gospels. The people were under the rule of the Roman Empire, and Jesus was getting up, and people were saying he was the King of God, and was supposed to take over the government of the Roman Empire and establish a united Israel and a new government that was to dominate the world. And then he was assassinated. The teachings of Jesus indicate, such as render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God's. Jesus clearly established a counter-government in the government that he was living in, and even established a counter-economy, so that those who joined his organization or congregation were able to have all things in common, as the translation renders it, meaning that they were not subjected to the economy of the Roman Empire, though they still rendered taxes. And we don't do that here in the United States. And but that's the economy discussion. I want to stick with religion for this one. Do religions really have the right to freely practice whatever they want? Are they free to speak whatever they want? And we know that Muslims do not have the right in this country to declare jihad. They must petition the government for redresses of grievances. They cannot take matters into their own hands. It must be determined that they have a legitimate grievance. And unfortunately, our nation is not designed to allow petitioning for redress of grievances. And so many occasions, people take matters into their own hands. We see it portrayed in the various movies. Bruce Willis, for example, had a movie that just came out not too long ago about how the police force do not adequately pursue investigations and government prosecutions, and therefore it was necessary for him to take matters into his own hands to redress grievances and administer justice. And there are other movies as well that discuss this. And so we can recognize that, I'll get this in the free speech video, but religions do not have the right to commit crime. They do not have the right to discriminate or take away the rights of other citizens. So in the Colorado Baker case, for example, the baker said, well, my religion says that homosexuals are evil, and so I can't allow homosexuals to buy product from my store. And they wanted a wedding cake. That's just blasphemy. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court didn't resolve the issue, but they granted that the state government messed it up, and the Colorado baker was granted the win in his appeal. And so it's still not resolved as to whether people can ban business service based on their religious beliefs. And again, I brought up in the last video, the overarching theme of the Constitution is love. That was the intention of our founding fathers, whether they realized it or not. And other governments, as recorded in the Old Testament Torah and the Gospels, clearly point out you need love to govern the laws that you make for a government. So for religious groups whose primary theme is that of love as well, it's again hypocritical to have a religion speak out declaring discrimination, segregation, violation of rights of others. And that's very disturbing. And when you have a majority religion who can then put in their candidate for a government office and even president of the United States, as we witnessed with evangelicals, we run into major problems and a constitutional crisis that results. So yeah, the United States can't have a single religion, but religion cannot get away with whatever they want. Satanic religion cannot sacrifice babies or virgins. They must comply with the rest of the Constitution as a whole. Businesses must equally provide products for customers. This is in the Constitution. It doesn't say it specifically, but that's the overarching theme. When you twist the Constitution to justify discrimination, segregation, violation of rights, you're going against the Constitution. And I read to you Article 6 that clearly indicates that you cannot create a law that violates equal rights to the people. And why is that hard for people? It doesn't make sense. Why are people seeking for power over others? Why can't we all just unite? You know, that's what we are United States. We're not segregated states. We're not divided states. We're not discriminatory states. We're not abusive states. We're supposed to be the United States. We're supposed to be a melting pot where people are free to worship who they want, practice what they want, speak about their beliefs as they want. But once they cross the line in trying to control others and suppress others, they cross the line. And so it makes no sense to me as to why religious people seek to do that. You know, religions are more than welcome to create their own standards for their members, but when you impose it upon others in society, you go too far. You know, I disagree with the government being involved in civil marriages, and marriage should belong to religions. But religions have no right to say, hey, two men, you can't live together, and though you don't tell us that that's what you do, we know that because you're living together, you're most likely having sex. You know, that's going too far for a religion. They have no right. So, yeah, it's not complicated to have a constitution of equality, but for some weird reason, humanity resists equality. And I don't understand why. I don't understand why humans refuse to love, why they have to hate, why they have to persecute, why they have to discriminate and segregate. See, even the LDS Church, they segregate within their own church. Blacks are forced to have a Genesis group congregation. They meet in downtown Salt Lake City every Sunday to worship their God. And the church approves of it, but blacks are not really fully welcomed in the white congregations. And the church also has Spanish congregations, Tongan congregations, Samoan congregations, Korean congregations, deaf congregations, and singles wards. I'm sure you've heard about singles wards in the LDS Church. Even singles are discriminated in the LDS Church. You probably are familiar with Steve Young, the former quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. When he turned 26 years old, the press was picking on him because he hadn't gotten married. And his third great grandfather, Brigham Young, is the one who said, a man who doesn't get married by the age of 26 is a menace to society. And so there he is, a descendant of Brigham Young, and he's not married at 26. And his situation was that he was so popular, he couldn't trust the intentions of any of the women that he was associating with. When you're a popular celebrity, everybody wants to have a relationship with you. And guys want to be your friend, and women want your baby. And so that was the difficulty that he was going through. And so when religion makes those standards, it causes problems in the society of those who are a part of that membership. Utah, for example, has the highest rate of women who take depression medication. I believe it's Ogden, which is the highest per capita of teen STDs in the nation. And I believe that there are also the highest single mother pregnancies in the nation. Utah is really going through some horrible things because of the religious dominance in the state. And so even though Utah is just one state in the nation, we can see the dangers of allowing one religious belief to dominate the whole nation. And then we can go back into history and the kings of England and their battles with the popes and forming their own religions in violation of the popes, and then the wars committed in the name of God. So I think I've covered the topics, and I hope you understand that because religion cannot be proven to be the true church, they must all be equally accepted. And religions don't understand that concept. uh, the sound versus unsound argument. Uh, Religion by itself is unsound argument, and the members of those religions fight against sound reasoning to try to convince them that, hey, you guys got to utilize sound argument. You know, you're claiming your unsound position and trying to impose it on the rest of us, like creationism. Creationism is an unsound argument. It is not a theory. Theories are replicatable. They have a test that can be performed to determine if it can be repeated. If it can't be repeated, it doesn't qualify as a theory. And so when people talk of conspiracy theories, they alter the definition. They say it's a false belief. That's not what a conspiracy theory is. A conspiracy is more than one person plotting criminal behavior. And a theory has to do with something that can be replicated to confirm if that is the case. So a conspiracy theory, you can create a replicable test to determine if more than one person plotted to commit crime. And so it's not fake news. It's not a false belief. I really wish our culture would not alter definitions of words, because it's causing a lot of confusion, such as democracy. We're not a democracy. The majority is not supposed to rule. It's supposed to be equality for all under a constitutional government. And religions need to conform to the Constitution. And they need to be held accountable when they violate constitutional rights. If a church sacrifices virgins, they need to be prosecuted. If a church forces those who are on Social Security to pay them, they need to be prosecuted. That's government money. That's not church money. The fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints got busted for the members giving their SNAP funds to their church, and then the church redistributed the food to the members. You can't do that. You can't commit crime. You can't violate others' rights. You can't discriminate. You can't segregate. And I hope people of a religious organization understand this. Muslims are supposed to be welcomed. Jews are supposed to be welcomed. Christians are supposed to be welcomed. Mormons are supposed to be welcomed. But when Islam, Judaism, Christianity, Mormonism try to impose their religion on others, they're out of line. So when the LDS Church did advertising campaigns in California during Prop 8, they were out of line. And they got busted for that. But not much happened to them. They just got exposed. You know, and the damage was done. But you got to leave people alone. You can't control people. You can teach people about God, you can teach people about love, and you can be unsound all you want, but when you have your members impose that unsound thinking into society on others, in government, in business, in neighborhoods. That's going too far, and it must stop. And religions need to be held accountable when they abuse the Constitution. And unfortunately in Utah that will never happen. The church is protected. The government has made laws protecting the church. And that can't be in a United States. So that's it for the religious freedom on this one. And we'll post this, and then we'll get to free speech.